Games and guitars. Guitars and games. How are they different? How are they the same? Well, the differences are fairly readily apparent, but it's the similarities that might not have occurred to you. First and foremost of those, to my mind, is they both give you gas. You musos know that means gear acquisition syndrome. Substitute the word gear with games and you've probably got it. And this is certainly the season for it, and I hope you get what you've been looking for. There are some other similarities, thinking back to Christmases past, one of my beloved prized possessions is a guitar my dad got me for Christmas in 1981. And, as I went down the rabbit hole, the penny dropped, and a couple of other significant similarities dawned on me. First of all, practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the more you play, the smoother you get. And the second thing is, as you play games, you really learn to appreciate the unique things that each one does. Just like instruments have unique signature voices, by and large, traditionally, generally speaking, games do a thing or two really well. And I think it's useful to spread that positive message and attitude about the good things that a game does, right? So let's talk about practicing first of all. Now, you might have a fairly complex game, or it appears complex anyway. Of course, when you encounter that rule manual, it can really be a shock. Some folks think APBA football is complex, and it really is not, okay? Whether it's basic or master version, it's not. You just, you take the time to learn it and practice it. You practice it in pieces, whether, you've got basic or advanced or super advanced strat in the box, or basic and advanced rules, what have you. The more you practice it, the better you get, the smoother you get, the more second nature it becomes, right? That moment when the penny drops and you can do a certain thing with the game, suddenly, wow, it's awesome. It's an amazing thing. You may have to fight through that. You may have some calluses, if you will, but you will get it. And the more you play, the smoother you get, the faster your game gets, Going from the player cards in APBA football to the results charts, for instance, something like that. And every game, will reward you by learning it. And everyone tells you, certainly for APBA football in our community, it's just start basic, don't worry about any optional rules, get the gist, and then add a bit here, a bit there. The rules spell this out quite clearly as well. So the more you practice, the better you get. And you can always learn something. It doesn't matter, whatever age you are, however long you've been playing. I've been playing APBA football since 1979, on and off, not consistently, but, that's something that will reward you and is good to do. It helps you stay sharp and really improves your playing time, which is a big concern, certainly with football games, right? Okay. Now, speaking of a variety of games, uniqueness and appreciating the attributes of each one. They all do something different, and thankfully they all exist, and that's why we like to have them around, just like guitars, which have traditionally some pretty unique voices. Now, if you follow guitar channels, the usual content shtick will be at some point you'll see the 5 guitars you need to have. You need something Strat-like, Les Paul-like, bass, some sort of acoustic guitar, maybe a semi-hollow electric. Think Chuck Berry's ES-335 or B.B. King's ES-355 with the 6-way baritone, which he didn't really use. I think he set it on 0. But in any case, or if you want to simplify that or broaden the description, single coil guitar, humbucker guitar with the warmer sound and a bass and an acoustic, etc. It's good to have a variety of games around for your mood or for your purposes. Team-based game like Pay Dirt, which is, of course, Ron Pizar is keeping alive as data-driven football. Or you want results on the player's cards, or you want to have far more results on expanded results charts and all the individual cards, just like you're holding all your tops cards, just without the images. Whatever your flavor, they all do something great. You might take a chance on a game or a guitar. I think we've all kind of bought maybe 1 or 2 games on eBay. I've certainly bought a guitar or an amp or two on eBay here or there, and you get it, and maybe you've heard some things about it, or you have some expectations, and it delivers some of it, but not all of it. Maybe it doesn't deliver any of it. You don't know. I once had a guitar where the case smelled like they kind of let the cat use it, but the guitar itself is great. But it, was a guitar style that I had never really explored, and I kind of had some idea about it, but some certain aspects of it grew on me and others didn't. Well, that's why you have the options, and you'd be thankful to have those options, and they're good to have in your arsenal, right? So you can play, hey, let's play just a team game as opposed to really wanting the players. You have options for yourself and for others, and that's where practice comes into play. The more you know them, the more you can share those details of the game quicker. The more you play it, the more you shape your narrative of how to teach the game. And in terms of practice and the variety, it really helps, I think, to have a rotation, a schedule, a rehearsal routine or practice routine, if you will. Musicians will, you work on your chords, you work on your scales, you work on a set list, you work on some exercises that you do just for yourself, your pre-game warm-ups, if you will, things like that. I think, for me, speaking for myself, what I plan to be doing next year is getting back into pay dirt and learning stratomatic and keeping APBA, in the rotation so that I'm staying up to snuff and keeping my muscle memory in shape by keeping these rules uppermost in my mind. It's a perishable skill, just like playing an instrument. Rotate the games, I think, might help keep rules fresh for you. And I can tell you, you just have to really get that muscle memory. When I was a young music student, I've learned on a .neck guitar, right? And I'm used to seeing my fingers on that kind of a fretboard. Now, one time I went to one of my lessons and I saw Les Paul on the wall, and I coveted that guitar. And I asked my guitar teacher, Steve Luciano, most patient man in the world. He said, why don't you go ahead and play it? I was like, could I play that for my lesson? And I proceeded to blow the lesson. Why? Because I wasn't used to seeing my hands on a trapezoid marker neck. And so I was all over the place, blew the notes. Okay. Another time before my lesson, with Steve at another shop, I was playing a bass. I had to play a little bass, get a little rush in there. It's time of moving pictures and all that. So, a little Chris Squire, a little Floyd, whatever. And I'm playing, and of course you can see the frets are a little farther apart. Well, I went and picked up my old little .neck guitar, and I was doing this for the lesson. Useless half hour, I was just toast. But Steve, to his credit, was just cool about it. It's like, oh, okay. So the more you practice and the more you rotate, the better you get. I mean, of course, now I can switch from each of these instruments back and forth, no problem. So I hope you find that a somewhat useful perspective to stay positive, stay practicing, and about that gas. How many games do you really need? Or guitars, for that matter? All the guitars, all the games, everyone that's ever been made, that's being made, that will be made, ad nauseum, ad infinitum, in perpetuity, forever and ever, amen. What kind of a question is that? It's a trick question. Embrace the GAS. I hope you enjoy your holiday season. Oh, yeah, there's just one more game you got to put on your list. Luthier, The Art of the Instrument. It's coming up from Paverson Games. It's going to take you back to the world of classical European lutherie. Make the instruments that the masters made and put them in the hands of the maestros. I can't wait for this. Save a few Kickstarter bucks. Paverson Games. They also did the game Distilled. Okay, just one more.